and good morning everyone, and thank you all very much for joining me. So to introduce myself, my name is Maura Davis. I'm a psychotherapist. I was in private practice previously, and now I'm founder of counsellinandtherapy.com, which is an online mental health resource and a source of qualified counsellors, psychotherapists and psychologists right throughout Ireland. And just to let you know, we have therapists right across the country working both online and face-to-face at the moment. So if any of you feel you would benefit from some professional support, then please know that that's there for you. So I'm just putting that out as a kind of backdrop. And I'll give you the details of this at the end of this. So firstly, thank you very much to John, excuse me, John Kavanagh for inviting me to join you today. John's very aware, and you all are, and Maureen said, and Germaine have said the same thing, that this is a very difficult time for people, both personally and professionally. And he and you all are responding from a place of care for the membership, which is really lovely. So it's just nice to kind of feel that and just acknowledge that as we begin. So this is coming from a really nice place and a lovely community. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is taking care of your mental health during this difficult time. So we're living, as you all know, in unprecedented times, and this is the backdrop that we have. And just to kind of take note of it, this is a global pandemic which sprang out of nowhere. We heard nothing about this in December, and it is now a massive global issue. In a short space of time, as you all know, like the numbers, I think, are 15 million or upwards. And, you know, we've lost a life of somewhere around 650,000 people. So this is huge. And while we're getting used to a new normal, you know, and this is kind of becoming a new normal, it's not normal. And of course, it's having a massive impact on your well-being and your mental health. And just to name, I think it's good to just actually say some of the kind of effects that this has on people, because as I say, we can sort of try and take it in our stride, but it's having a massive impact. So just to bring home the range and the magnitude, some of the things are, you know, you will be experiencing are, you know, anxiety, disorientation, fear, uncertainty, fear around the disease for yourself or in your family, you know, fear about, worrying about your family, worrying about the future, worrying about your future income, which is a big concern, I think, for a lot of people, financial worry, and then worry about the coming winter. This is your peak season, particularly for you guys. So worry about, you know, the coming winter and surviving into next year. And then there are issues like loneliness, isolation, the loss of social connection, the loss of sense of purpose, the loss of identity, boredom, struggling with social distancing, you know, missing physical connection with the people that we can't see or we can't be with. And then, you know, even on the kind of home front, relationship problems, we're all cooped up together, family problems, too much family, dare I say it, in a confined space, too little outlet, you know, the loss of hobbies, too much time on our hands, and therefore, you know, too much time with our own thoughts, which can be very difficult. And if we've any tendency to ruminate or feel down, then that can also give a lot of difficulty. So when you set them all out like that, there is quite a lot of things to be concerned about and quite a lot of difficulty. You know, and for some people, you know, the timing of this was a real positive in that it happened in spring. The clocks just went forward and all the rest of it, and the weather got nice and the evenings were nice and people were able to get outdoors. But in your particular profession, this happened just as you were coming into your peak season, you know, which I think is March to October, which is quite wide. So for all of you, the impact of this has been quite magnified in many ways, and that's really difficult. And then I think it's actually also worth remembering that there were other things going on in our lives already, you know, other kind of challenges, even on a global kind of basis, that were impacting on us. For example, if you think about it, we were all starting to become aware of climate change and changes in our physical world, and the planet that we live on is under threat, and that's kind of unsettling. And then there are big changes globally and even politically. You know, we've all been through the Brexit and all of that and what's going to happen. And that has economic impacts and all sorts of impacts. And then there's the US situation and Black Lives Matter and Trump being re-elected or not re-elected, and the influence of Russia and the emergence of China and what's going on in Poland and Brazil. And, you know, so the world we live in is very much in a state of flux for the last few years. And that's also very unsettling. So I think the very first thing here is to just step back and acknowledge all of this and take a deep breath and go, wow, okay, when you put it like that, this is an awful lot to be dealing with. So of course it's going to have an impact. Of course it's going to have an impact on you personally. And of course it's going to impact, you know, on you broader and in your family. And the next thing I would say that, you know, I've outlined a lot of responses that people are having to all of this. All of these responses are completely normal in the circumstances. It is completely natural. They're all within the range of human responses to crisis or to something big that's happening. And that's really important to understand, because it's very easy to pathologize our reaction to things when something's happened and feel that there's something not okay about us because we're not able to manage this, or we're not able to handle it, or we're not able to come to terms with it, or we're struggling with it and finding it tough going. It's much more important to understand that it's completely normal for us all as human beings to struggle with something like this. And if you think about it, in many ways, given the size and magnitude of it and everything that's happened, it would be probably a bit more strange if we didn't struggle with it, because it is huge. And even if you feel differently to, you know, other people, and some people seem to be absolutely fine or whatever, or they're dealing with it in a different way, then don't worry about that. You know, everybody responds differently. We're all wired differently. We're all coming from a different background of experiences. So we're going to experience this and we're going to deal with this in a slightly different way. So that's the first thing. So what I'm saying to you is, in terms of taking care of yourself, the first thing is acknowledge the size and the uniqueness of this and what's happening in the situation we all find ourselves in right now. And then approach your own response to it. And this is really key, with kindness and compassion for yourself, and be understanding of yourself during this time. And that's because, you know, we all talk about kindness and compassion for other people, and you're in a caring profession, you're looking out for people, you know, as Maureen said at the beginning, all the time. But you've got to apply that to yourself and take care of yourself during this. So don't let the self-critic kick in, or the self-blame because you're not able to cope with this, or you're finding it difficult to deal with. This has come out of the blue. Nobody saw it coming. So be nice to yourself. And then the other thing I just want to say to you is what's really important here. It's worth considering the role that your profession has to play in this and the impact on what this is happening. So let's just take a minute and step back and look at the role that our work has in all our lives. And regardless of what it is we do, our work is central to, it's a central aspect of our life, and therefore it's central to our mental health and well-being. Now, I know for many of you as tour guides, this is a career maybe you've come into after another career. You might have had a previous one, or it's maybe something that grew out of a hobby, but it doesn't really matter. That's my point, really. It doesn't really matter. That's your profession now, that's what you do, and therefore it has a lot of significance for you. And if you think of the role that your work has in your life, our work makes us feel good and feel fulfilled, and it's good for our well-being. You know, if you think about it, it's meeting an intrinsic need for self-determination. So being in charge of our own lives, doing what we're engaged in, what we have a passion for, exercising our own agency. And that's very affirming. And it also, of course, gives us means to, you know, access to other things, all the bread and butter things, the essentials, and also the little luxuries that enhance our lives. Our work also gives us means to a social connection. And it's in the nature of human beings to be social. We're hardwired as human beings to strive for social connection and to strive for close emotional bonds. So our interpersonal connections are therefore really essential to our well-being. And you know, as tour guides, all of you are inherently probably very social people. And it's perhaps that social part of yourself that brought you into this profession. And this is a key part of your everyday work and what has probably drawn you into this occupation. So my point is really, you know, you're going to really, really miss this. This is all going to be a big loss, and you're going to feel this keenly when this is taken away at the moment. So I think you need to take just cognizance of that and give yourself, understand that this is hard for you to bear. So, we don't think about this all the time, but, through our work, we're contributing to kind of the greater thing, the greater social piece, the greater, the economic aspects of our life, our connection into our community. And then, the nature of your work, you're tapping into, connections to our culture and our heritage. And that's all very affirming, and there's great dignity in what you do, and great self-respect and great respect from others. So all of you are missing this right now. So you don't have this, it's taken away. It is only temporarily, but my point is that all of this part of our work, when it's taken away, we feel the loss of it, and it will impact on your mental health. And I'm just saying to you, keep that in mind, that's important. So when you think about the combination of the personal impact on all of this and the professional impact on all of this, there's quite an impact. But what matters here now is that you get through this difficult time, and it is temporarily, hopefully, it will end eventually, but that you get through this period of your lives in a sound state of mind and in a healthy state of well-being. So it is about supporting yourself and learning to support yourself and understanding what you can do to support yourself and what is helpful to you to get you through this time right now. So the number one thing, and and you'll understand this because I've explained a little bit to you about it, is the staying in touch with other people is absolutely key. So that's going to be your family, your friends, your neighbors, your community. So your social connections are really, really, really important, and nurture them, even within the constraints of social distancing. So this is a lovely community, clearly, and a very caring community. And you wouldn't be doing this morning unless you deeply cared about each other. So tap into that. I know you're very separate, you're throughout the country, but there'll be colleagues, local to you that you can link in with, even like this on Zoom. And I know Jermaine touched on it there at the beginning, you have other meetings and other activities and connections to each other that you have planned, but use all of those, and use your knowledge and use your network to support each other and to support yourself. And God knows, you guys know for sure the best places to go, for other people, when you're entertaining other people and helping other people to enjoy themselves. So use that for yourself, that's there for you all. And if you think about it, it is community that has got us through this. And we've done a super job in Ireland. And, we can take our hat off on this, really. And when we look at how it's been managed in other countries, we've done a great job. But what has really worked in Ireland, and you will see this really, is the community spirit, the little initiatives on the street, the street parties, the gym sessions outdoors, the people pulling out their sofas and watching a movie, in that street in Cork where someone threw it up on somebody's gable, just those kinds of things that tap into community. So it is community that gets us through this, so, and I don't know if any of you watched that RT Investigates program, inside Ireland's COVID battle, I think it was. It just was so touching. You couldn't but be moved at the kindness and compassion and that goodwill that is there, so it's tap into that. There's a tremendous resource of that across the Irish community, that lovely goodwill and generosity. And if you can tap into that and feel it and even participate in it, it will help to carry us through, and it will help to keep that kind of positivity that we all need. And just in terms of, your day-to-day routine, that's quite important. And I would say, try to stick to a routine in your day-to-day lives. It's very easy, when our schedule has gone out the window, and you would probably all be rushing off to meet people and have, your diaries will be chock-a-block at this time of year. So when that's all quite open, it's very little for the day to become kind of unfocused, and then it can bleed into staying up till late at night watching Netflix and staying in bed during the morning, and I don't really want to get up for today, and that's really not good for your mental health. So I would say stick to your usual routine, get up, get dressed, make a plan for the day, try and build in something nice and some hobbies and activities that you enjoy. Now, don't overdo it. For goodness sake, you know, don't be pressurized into learning the violin or having to learn how to make sourdough bread or speak Japanese or any of these things. This is about supporting yourself and supporting each other. It's not about giving yourself another stick to beat yourself with. So, you know, and just because you're not productive as well, that's the other thing, you know, just because you're not productive or you feel you're not productive right now because should be a really busy time, be careful that that doesn't get connected, and your self-worth isn't connected to how productive you are. So, you know, just because you're not busy right now doesn't mean that you have any less self-worth. So just be careful around that. And then I would say to you, you know, use the outdoors, get outdoors and connect with nature. It is so good for our mental health. You know, a lot of GPs are talking about issuing a green prescription now. And what they mean by this is using the value of nature for our mental health. It's really good for our body and are really good for our souls. And if you're in any way at all prone to rumination or anxiety, then it's great to get outdoors and get out of your head and feel the ground under your feet and experience that kind of multi-sensory, the sight of things, the sound of things, the smell of things. Go out and get a walk and feel that rhythm. And it stops that overthinking and that ruminating that does nothing for your mental health. And also it supports your physical health. It'll make you feel, you know, nicely tired at night. And when we feel physically well, our mental health follows. Now, I do understand that living with uncertainty can be very difficult. And this is, you know, this is a big feature of all of this. We don't know when this is going to end. We don't know when there's going to be a vaccine. We don't know what's going to happen. And we all like to have some kind of certainty and have plans, and, you know, we like to be structured, and we're all encouraged to do that. And there's loads of, you know, apps and tablets and whatnot that help us to do all of that. But it is no harm for us, and it's good for us, I think, to learn to tolerate a certain amount of uncertainty and trust that we will be able to manage through it. And if we can do that, we'll be at much more peace with ourselves, you know, because that's just, life is just simply not like that. The best day ever, it is unpredictable. But I do understand also that uncertainty can create anxiety for some people, and anxiety is very difficult to endure. And if it's an issue for you, I have done a separate talk on this, you know, so I'm not going to go into a talk about anxiety really, because it's kind of a more specific thing. And I have done a talk on anxiety, both in terms of the impact of COVID-19 and also if anxiety is a persistent issue. And there's a link to it on the website, or if you simply Google Maura Davis anxiety on YouTube, it will just simply pop up, and you can watch that, and that might be helpful if anxiety is an issue for you. And that talk also includes another thing that's very helpful if you know, if stress or anxiety are an issue. There's a relaxation, a kind of grounding exercise at the end of that. If you scroll on to about 22 minutes, I think, it's a short 5-minute exercise that you can do anywhere. You just need a chair and somewhere kind of quiet, and I just talk you through it. And if stress and anxiety are an issue, it's a really good grounding exercise that uses your breath to take you out of that, you know, that loop in your head and bring you back into kind of your own body and your feet on the ground, and helps you calm any anxiety. So that's a good way to start today and to finish your day, you know. So if that's helpful to you, go over and have a look at that. And then before I finish up, I just want to mention one other thing that I think is really good to bear in mind, and it's really important, and that is the concept of resilience. And I would say it's good for us to remind ourselves about this, because we are all much more resilient than we realize. And we have that inbuilt resource in ourselves that we often don't tap into. And resilience, just to understand what it is, it's resilience is about our ability to recover from adversity, to recover from difficulty and get back up on our feet again. And we don't often have a choice around what life flings at us, you know, the curveballs that come our way, but we do have a choice around how we respond to things. So resilience is about reframing difficulty, not seeing crises as insurmountable problems, accepting, you know, that change is an inevitable part of life. and looking for the positive in things, the opportunity in things. It is nurturing that positive outlook and remaining hopeful about the future, which is really, really essential for ourselves. And then the underlying thing in all of that is to do all of those things. It's taking care of yourself, taking care of your body, taking care of your soul, to do all of those things. So if you can nurture those kind of attitudes in yourself and in each other, this crisis, and indeed other crises, because we will all have other things that will come at us down the road, they won't weigh you down to the same extent, you know. So resilience really is kind of like, it's kind of like building a muscle. So, you know, the more you use it, the more you learn to adopt that attitude of positivity. You know, this won't get me down, you know, all of that. It will leave you in a better place to cope with those kind of events that arise inevitably, and give you the confidence that you'll be able to deal with things. And as a nation, as a people, we're a very resilient people in Ireland. It's come from our history. Who am I telling? You know, but that, you know, that is a resource that's there. So nurture it and tap into it. So that's what I'm going to say, really. So kind of they're the main things really for you all. So I'm also going to finish up by saying, you know, I've spoken to you about all of the things that you can do, but, you know, it's also not a sign of weakness to need help. And that includes professional help. And if you need it, you know, reach out and get it for yourself. It's there for you. Don't struggle alone. And if you're finding this really tough going, you know, don't try and go it alone with this. It can be really helpful to have somewhere where you can go and talk to someone, you know, confidentially if you need to, and get the support you need. So if you're looking for some professional help, counselingandtherapy.com is the name of the website. We have therapists, all fully qualified and accredited, right across the country. And if for some reason in your area there's you know, there isn't the choice you want, please get in touch with me. You'll get me at info@counselingandtherapy.com, and I'd be more than happy to help any of you in any way that I can, you know, through all of this.